So here I've applied what we did to the 12.5 purchase to all of the purchase layers and laid out the amount I would record in purchases under the periodic method, the amount I would record in purchase returns for each, freight for each, and purchase discounts. Again, make sure that you only evaluate the things you kept for these two because we get reimbursed freight, so we're only charged for what we keep. And we only actually get a discount on what we pay for, and we only pay for what we keep. So, um, other than that, this should be some pretty simple arithmetic. And quite frankly, on the test, I will likely give you a table that looks like this or something so that you don't have to make that calculation for all of them. Now, some cool things that can result from this. Remember, we can get net purchases for each of these individually, um, for each purchase layer. And we said that the net purchases of that first row were 277.38, whichever way we did it. The net purchases on our second row would be 200 minus 0 plus 6 minus 6. So it just reduced down again to 200. 520 minus 52 plus 1080 and 0, 478.80. And 360 plus 9, 369. Remember, whether to add or subtract is totally dictated whether it's an adjunct or contra account here. Adjunct account, adjunct contra. So knowing those classifications will help you navigate how to handle the purchases. If I add all these up, then I would get my total net purchases during the period. So I purchased in my net purchases in total would be $1,325.18. And then something that really is nice from that is that we can determine gaps because we have a beginning inventory of 40 units at $11 per unit. So if I take my beginning inventory, which is 40 units at 11, and then add my net purchases for everything during the period, $1,352.18. I get $1,765.18. This is my goods available for sale, as these are my net purchases. Right? So that's useful, right? To know goods available for sale, because remember, if I have goods available for sale, I can break it into cost of goods sold, ending inventory, which means all I have to do is solve for one of these two, and then I'll know the other because I can just take, if I determine COGS, subtract it from gas, that gives me ending inventory. So useful stuff. The other things I can do here, right, is determine a price per unit for each of these. I kept, in this case, the units kept were 23. If I divide 23 into that, I get a per unit price of 1206. Here, I purchased 20 and didn't return any, so I got a net per unit price of 10. So this is a per unit price. 478.80 represents 36 units after I returned 4 of the 40. So divide 478.80 by 36. That's $13.30 per unit. And then 369 divided by the 30 units gives me $12.30 a unit. Right. So I can get the per unit prices from all of these. That will help me when I'm assigning uh, my units a cost by a cost flow method. All of this stuff, all this preamble really is so helpful. And I can understand the student perspective, like, well, shoot, just tell me how to work the problem. But it's not just about working the problem, it's about understanding the information, how you can manipulate it, how you can use it to solve for things that are going to be important for you as you're working through it. Right. So we have some good price points here. With price points, we can do perpetual. So kind of bridging into that student perspective. Well, what am I supposed to do with all this crap? Now we have our per unit prices. We can run a perpetual system with that piece. The other thing we got to think about when we do a perpetual system, though, one more consideration, and it comes up pretty quick after I ask you, like, what is the cost, what is LIFO perpetual COGS, right? Then I ask for the shrinkage. So notice I always have these counts, 65 units when it performed its inventory count at the end of the period. This is going to help me. So it's going to help determine if there's shrinkage under a perpetual method. But remember, if we're doing a periodic method, this is simply my ending inventory. We cannot determine any shrinkage under the periodic method because the periodic method, if there is any shrinkage, it just assigns that dollar value into cost of goods sold. So shrinkage determination is super simple. All we need to do is look at how many units we should have from this data and compare it to how many units we actually had. So I began with 40, right? I purchased 25, but I returned two. So I should have 23 from that purchase. Well, I sold 20. I purchased 20 at 10. I didn't return any, so I have all 20 still. I sold 30. I purchased 40, but I had four returns. So that's 36 that I accumulated. I purchased 30, but no returns. So I had 30. And finally, I sold 25. So if I just keep a track of what I purchased and sold, then I go into this is why perpetual helps because it actually records the sales in inventory when they happen. As the sale is happening, it credits inventory. So I have, let's see, 63 units. Those cancel. I'm down to 33 when I subtract 30. I add 36, so I'm up to 69. I'm up to 99. I subtract 25 from 99. And I should have 74. This is the count that I should have, but I don't. I only have 65. So there are 9 units shrinkage. That will be important for me to remember when I record my shrinkage after I record my cost flow, LIFO cost flow. Now notice number 2 asks you to calculate purchases, purchase discounts, purchase returns, freight in. Well, we already did that. We did it with our table here. We did much more than just that, but here's the total purchases for the month, purchase returns, freight in, and purchase discounts. So the next video, we'll talk about how to assign that LIFO perpetual cost.